Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. I've got a week 10 lineup builder show for you on DraftKings. I'm going to take questions from my Twitch chat for the next 45 minutes to an hour, as long as they can keep me active answering questions, whether it's strategy, whether it's going to be questions about bankroll management or game entry or players at certain positions or whatever. We're going to take the time to answer those questions in hopes that we can help you become a little bit more knowledgeable player about this week 10 slate. I'm not here to give you the answers. I'm here to give you my answers. And this is from the research that I've done this week. Everybody's going to ask questions. I'm going to give you my honest opinion about where I think everything is going into the weekend slate. I appreciate you guys showing up for this video week after week after week. It's one of the biggest videos on the channel. If you're new to the channel, appreciate you finding it. Thank you for clicking that thumbnail. If you would do me a favor and drop a like on this video, let's try and get over 1,000 likes on this video. Leave me a comment in the comment section down below, letting me know who you think is going to be the highest owned running back in cash this week. And as always, subscribe to the channel and make sure that you ring that notifications bell, because I come out with a ton of content throughout the week and I don't want you to miss any of it. Well, let's get right to the questions. I'm going to bring in the chat. As always, they're just spamming my face in the chat. Kyler Murray's still my number one cash QB. He was never my number one cash QB. He was the guy I used in first look. And I rarely have like a number one cash QB, right? I'm very flexible at quarterback. I don't ever really think that there is somebody that is a must play, at least not in 2019 at quarterback, because the prices have really been moved up. Most plays at quarterback sit between 6,000 and 7,000, or maybe a little bit over if you're counting like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and whoever else. But I don't think that you need to play a quarterback, because the band of scoring for quarterbacks is pretty narrow, right? There's like 10 or 15 quarterbacks every week that have between 18 and 32 fantasy points. So the band isn't that wide, and you can find one that fits into your lineup for one reason or another. I don't think that you must stack a quarterback in cash. I just think that you need to try and get a guy that's going to get you 20 to 30 fantasy points. Because cash is not about correlation as much as it is just piling in as much volume and points as you can into your lineup to give yourself a really good floor. And there's a lot of good quarterbacks out there this week. Pay up for Baltimore defense against another red-headed quarterback. If you have the money, yeah, but I don't really force a defense into lineups, if that makes sense, right? So like I try and find one that I like in a range. Some defense is going to get a lot of pressure. Some defense that has turnover upside, sack upside is what I'm looking for in there. So that's kind of what how I go about things, going to look for that. So favorite cash QBs, you like Breeze, but any concern on Atlanta not keeping up? Maybe. I mean, what's that spread now? 11, 12? So like if they score 30 or 35 points, right? If New Orleans scores 30 or 35 points and it's 30 or 35 to 10, that would be not keeping up. That's 4 to 5 touchdowns. How many of those do you think come through the air? The problem isn't that I don't think Breeze can put up numbers. It's, as you say, is Atlanta going to keep their feet on the throttle? Are they going to force New Orleans to keep their foot on the throttle for Breeze to have the kind of day that he had against Arizona in a 31-9 game where he threw for 373 and 3 touchdowns, or this game in week 1 where he threw for 370 and 2 touchdowns? I like the floor. We know that you attack Atlanta through the air this year. Their safety getting injured, Neal, and their cornerbacks are not as good as they used to be. Ted Ginn in a better spot this week. Michael Thomas in a good spot every week. Kamara is very good through the air at all times. So like, yeah, there's a possibility that any one of those guys can catch a long touchdown and give you a lot of it in a chunk. I think that people are going to be on Winston. For good reason. He throws for 300 yards a lot, gets you that bonus. Yes, he is prone to mistakes with a lot of fumbles and a lot of interceptions. This could be the only spot that you could probably play the Arizona defense, not in lineups with Winston, but like it's about the only spot that I'd ever really play that Arizona defense this year. They're pretty bad. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, I don't know if I have enough money to pay up for them in cash this week. I think that paying a little bit less at quarterback is probably optimal in terms of cash game lineups, but for tournaments, both are certainly in play. I don't need to tell you how good they are or how high a ceiling they have. You know who they are. Kyler Murray against Tampa Bay We basically play quarterbacks against Tampa Bay all the time. I don't have a problem going with Kyler Murray, except for the fact that they have been playing a little bit slower. They're running a lot more 3 wide than they were 4 wide. They're not running the Kingsbury system that he ran in college at this point, and they're not playing as fast as they were earlier in the season. So that's a little bit of a concern, but the matchup is still so great that, like, it's never about volume with quarterbacks. It's always about efficiency. And Tampa Bay is allowing everyone to be extremely efficient. Other quarterbacks that I think are in play this week, Matt Ryan against New Orleans. All he has done this year in games that he's been healthy has been throw for 300 yards, get you that bonus, multiple touchdowns in every game except one where he started and finished the game. If you want to take a chance in a GPP, Sam Darnold against the Giants is fine. Probably not going to have much Mitch Trubisky. I'm more interested in Dave Montgomery, but if you want a Mitch Trubisky to Allen Robinson stack to leverage all the Montgomery ownership, I understand that. For me, the biggest value play on the board, or the best value play on the board, is probably Ryan Tannehill at 5,100. 28, 19, and 23 points in his first 3 games as a starter. Now they face off against Kansas City, who has allowed the most red zone trips for opposing teams this year. So there is touchdown upside. There is efficiency upside here. He does have the targets to be able to throw to. And for him to get 20 points would be almost 4x on that salary and allow you to pay up for all the other guys that you may want to pay up for in your lineup. So that's my entire quarterback breakdown. Is Rhett Ellison too thin for cash? No, I don't think so. What do you need from him? Like, okay, we need to talk about we've mentioned this before, right? I've had this conversation before. I know I've done it on stream. I don't know if I've done it in a YouTube recording. But what are you expecting when you roster Rhett Ellison, when you pay $2,500 for a tight end? Okay. And the reason that Rhett Ellison is in play is because Evan Ingram's going to miss the game. So Ellison's going to start. The last time that Ingram was out, he played 100% of the snaps and had 7 targets. Okay. So we have to talk about what your expectation is when you're somebody who rosters Rhett Ellison. Right? And to me, it's less about what Rhett Ellison is going to do. It's more about you playing Rhett Ellison because he's unlocking one thing for you that was not previously available to you if you paid up for a $3K or a $3,500 tight end, right? There was something else in your lineup that was keeping you from, right? So if Rhett Ellison is the thing that unlocks the last piece in your lineup, that makes your lineup now amazing because you were trying to get up to Christian McCaffrey, but you only had, 9,800 left, and he gives you that extra 600 or 700 that you need. If he's the guy that gets you up to Michael Thomas, if he's the one that allows you to get off of a quarterback range that you don't like and pay up for a better quarterback, even though paying up for quarterback is kind of sketchy to me, but if he gets you to that running back or wide receiver that you're really looking for, I don't have a problem with Rhett Ellison, because I think that people need to be more honest about what they're expecting out of a $2,500 tight end, because I know that people are going to play Rhett Ellison now. And let's say he has 7 fantasy points. Man, Rhett Ellison busted today. Nobody's in here predicting a 20-point fantasy day for Rhett Ellison, right? At least nobody's sensible. Yes? So as long as he gets you 7 to 11 points, anywhere in that range, as long as the other guy that you paid up for, it's not about Rhett Ellison when you draft Rhett Ellison on DraftKings. It's about the other guy. And if the other guy that you paid up for beats the guy that you had in the lineup before by 15 fantasy points, there's your win. That's what you're looking for. Hell, 0 points at 2.5 isn't even busting. I mean, it's not helping, but I understand what you're saying. 7 points gets Rhett Ellison that fire emoji in the app. That's probably true. You came for the Smiz fade of the week? I'm not smart enough to fade players. I play all the dudes. I'm not smart enough to fade anybody. I wish I was. 1 catch for 1 yard and a touchdown. Ship it. I'll take it. 7.1 DraftKings points. Gimme. Look, if Red Ellison falls into the end zone, it's great. Now, there's a better, more athletic play at tight end that's not as cheap, but similarly cheap, right? We've been talking about him all week. Let's see if chat knows who he is. Chat, who's the similarly priced tight end who's way more athletic than Red Ellison? See, chat knows. I got a smart chat. You're smart, chat. Check out the big brain on chat. You guys are good. See? Taught you guys well. Mike Gesicki. This is filthy. These workout metrics for him, absolutely filthy. 4.5, 40, 96th percentile to position. Speed score, 96th percentile. Burst score, 99th percentile. Agility score, 99th percentile. Catch radius, 100th percentile. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Pat Bain, thank you very much for the 10 gifted subs. Guys, if you got a gifted sub from Pat, drop him a thank you. 10 new members of the VIP. Right? So this is an extremely athletic. Now look, in comparison to Red Ellison, because everybody wants to know, that's a big difference. Okay? In terms of athleticism, this is a pretty big difference. Right? Now, I am not the person that's going to trash Red Ellison. You got the wrong guy. In my opinion, and in reality, actually, it's not just my opinion, when it comes to fantasy and DraftKings and everything else, opportunity trumps athleticism. Opportunity trumps talent. Eric Ebron is a better football player than both these cats. But Eric Ebron is stuck behind Jack Doyle. Does not play as many snaps, does not run as many routes. You don't have to worry about that with Gesicki. Gesicki right now over the past 4 weeks has the 6th most targets of any tight end in the league with 20. He now is getting that opportunity. They're also lining him up at wide receiver a lot. He's not an inline tight end. He's not somebody that they're putting in there. He's not blocking. He's running routes. And that's what you want. We saw it from Noah Fant last week. All year I've been saying Noah Fant was going to win somebody the Millionaire Maker because of how athletic he was and how many routes he was running per his quarterback's dropbacks. Now you have Mike Gesicki with the absence of Preston Williams, who is now going to be there are more targets to go around. They drop back more than anybody. He's got a quarterback in Fitz that wants to stretch the field and throw it downfield, and he has a tight end who's got 2 catches in the last 4 weeks, over 30 yards, and is now going to be running more routes and is more featured as they go into more of a talent evaluation mode for the rest of the season. Losing Mark Walton, losing Williams, and everybody else, Mike Gesicki is pretty solid, right? At 3,100. So if you can't stomach, if you need to get value at tight end and you can't stomach Red Ellison for whatever reason, because you don't think he's going to get the catches, or you don't think he's going to catch anything but like maybe 2 catches for 15 yards and no touchdown, fine, I get that. Gesicki presents you a different profiled option, a different type of player in a higher volume situation, actually a similar volume situation. I expect them both to get between like 5 and 8 targets. But Gesicki theoretically can do more with those targets athletically than Red Ellison can do. He's had a problem doing that over the last year and a half. Gesicki has, but he seems like he may be coming into his own here. The past 4 weeks at least, with 8, 8, and 15 DraftKings points in 3 of those 4 games. So that's the long form. Where do you go to look at routes run? I've been posting them. I don't know if I posted them this week in Discord, but I've been posting them in the subscriber Discord and pinning them to the top of the NFL channel. I may not have posted this week. If not, I'll post the week 9 report when I get off the air here. Scott Chandler stuck behind Gates in San Diego, Witten, Dallas, then balled out in Buffalo. Exactly. You can't score fantasy points if you're holding your helmet on the sideline, right? So Red Ellison is fine as long as Evan Ingram is out. Just like last year, I did not play, and maybe I cost myself money at the beginning of the season because I could not play Eric Ebron when he was playing like 20 snaps and running 10 routes. Now he would catch a touchdown and that was it. But like in the weeks that Jack Doyle was out, now Eric Ebron takes on a much larger role, plays 100% of the snaps, runs a lot more routes, gets a lot more targets, everything else, and he became a smash play for that time last year. And if Jack Doyle misses any time this year, Eric Ebron is your play at tight end. Opportunity is greater than anything else. That's why I always talk about volume. That's why I always talk about targets. That's why I always talk about combined rushes plus catches. That's all I care about. I want to know how many times they get the ball. And there's a lot of running backs this week that are somewhat cheap that I think are going to get the ball a lot. As long as they give Singletary 20 touches again, he's worth it. I don't disagree with you. Speaking of opportunity, is Pascal too thin for cash? I think he's been priced up to a point where it's scary. Right? Like he's 5,300. So he's 5,300, right? So think about everybody else. Look at all these guys. 6,900 for Devontae Adams. 6,300 for Allen Robinson, who's a monster. Odell Beckham Jr. has never been 6,100. Ever. John Brown at 6K. You know, I think that there's a ceiling game coming. We just haven't hit one yet. Zach Pascal has had a lot of volume because people have missed, but like it's not insane volume. It's not like 10 target volume, right? He's living off of touchdowns, right? This is 12 fantasy points without a touchdown, and this is 19 fantasy points without a touchdown. Good games for sure, but better games at 4K than they would be at 5,300. And you have people around him like DJ Moore, who I think is tremendous. A better football player in a higher volume situation, in a higher volume offense that wants to pass the ball. You have Christian Kirk in a higher volume situation, in a higher volume offense, in a better matchup at 100 cheaper. If you want to play Pascal in a GPP, I'm not going to tell you not to. You have Calvin Ridley, who's going to be chasing against New Orleans and should see a lot of volume as well. There's a lot of plays in that range, and I haven't even gotten to these lower price players. Sammy Watkins, with 18 targets the past 2 weeks and getting Mahomes back now. Jamison Crowder against the Giants with as much volume as he's going to get in the slot from Darnold. There's a lot of plays in that range. Landry, Parker, these guys are getting tons of volume, but like Pascal gets 6 or 7. Did I talk about Russell Gage yet? I haven't. But he's cheap. With Mohamed Sanu gone, he's now on the field a ton and running a lot of routes. He's a value option. I think that Ted Ginn is another value option. More boom or bust for Ted Ginn. To me, I think he's more of a tournament play than Russ Gage is. Too many mouths to feed in Atlanta? Not really. I wouldn't call him a mouth. Julio is the mouth. You know, Julio and Hooper are going to get the bulk of the volume. But they're going to throw it a ton. They're going to throw it 40 to 50 times. And they may have to win this game, and it's a perfect throwing environment. Only problem is New Orleans defense going to put as much pressure on Ryan as the Rams front seven did? Because if that happens, that offensive line can't save him. Give me the Saints D. I don't hate that. They might give up a lot of points, but they also have an opportunity for a lot of sacks. New Orleans going to take him out behind the shed. Maybe. What if New Orleans wins by like 13? Okay. What if they win by 13, but they're up by 6 in the fourth quarter? Is that a realistic possibility? What if they win by 13, they're up by 6, and they score a touchdown with 5 minutes left to go to put them up 13? Is that a realistic possibility? Could you see that happening? They cover the spread, but they don't cover it they don't win 38-10, right? So they cover, but they don't smash. Then big game for Breeze. Agree. Also, probably big game. I mean, assuming that it's not 17 to, or it wouldn't be 17 to 11, but you know what I mean? Like something in that range. Not if it's 16 to 10, right? And they've got 3 field goals and a touchdown, and like what if it's 30-24 and then the Saints score a touchdown to put them up 37-24 with 5 minutes left in the game? Is that possibly a realistic game script in that game? Could that happen? You don't think Breeze is going to play all 4 quarters? You realize how often quarterbacks sit in the NFL? This ain't college. This is not the Big Ten. This is not the SEC. For a quarterback to sit in the 4th quarter, it needs to be like 40-6. Now, if they're up 40-6 in the 4th quarter, he will sit. Yes. But quarterbacks do not typically sit in the NFL. Atlanta will not score more than 21. Maybe. I'm not saying one way or the other. What is their team total? What is their implied team total? I'm looking it up. Sorry. But how did they get the 40 so then it doesn't matter? Agree. That's my point, J. Rod. Like, if they score 40 and he sits the 4th quarter, he might, like, if they've got 40 points, that's 5 touchdowns, right? How did they score those 5 touchdowns? Were 3 of them defensive and 1 of them was a fullback dive? Because if that's the case, then sure, there's paths to failure there, but like, how realistic is that? How many touchdown passes does Breeze have if they have 40 real life points? Steelers D at 2,600 is a lock. I think it's in play. I don't know that it's a lock. Yeah, right now so the Falcons team total is 18.5 and the Saints is 32.5, highest on the week. That's where you went on like I said, I don't mind it. I don't think it's a bad play in the least. I think it's fine. I rarely think that defenses are a lock. I think that there's a lot of defenses in play that are under 3K. I think the Rams defense at 3K is in play in Pittsburgh with as much pressure as they can get on opposing quarterbacks. I think the Bills defense going up against Baker. I think both defenses in this game are in play with as much pressure as they can get on the quarterback. You're going to hear a theme here because it's always about pressure on the quarterback for me. Going up against Darnold, quarterbacks that turn the ball over. Buccaneers, can they get enough pressure on Kyler and possibly get him to turn the ball over? The Cardinals don't really apply that much pressure. As you can see, they had 2 games where they had 4 or more sacks. They have multiple games where they get absolutely no pressure. But Winston turns the ball over so much that at 2,200, I think they're in play just for the turnover factor from Winston. The Browns going up against, same reason, Browns going up against Buffalo at home. Josh Allen turns the ball over a ton. They get constant and steady pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Right? There's a lot of defenses that are 3,000 and down that I think are fine. And the Steelers are another one of those. I think the Steelers are another team that gets a lot of pressure, does a good job against opposing offensive lines, getting pressure on the quarterback. And they're always kind of priced in this range, right? I think that they are certainly in play. Double-digit fantasy points in 5-6 straight weeks? Awesome. But touchdown, right? Predicting defensive touchdowns is a fool's errand. I don't even try. Is this the week that Cole Beasley does not get a touchdown? The king of touchdowns does not care for regression. Thoughts on Marlon Mack this week? My thoughts on Marlon Mack are very similar to my thoughts on Derrick Henry pretty much every week at this point. I think he gets a tremendous amount of volume. I think he needs to run for over 100 yards and get 2 touchdowns in order to be a tournament viable play at 7,000. Because he's not going to have predictable usage in the passing game. He does not have a very steady floor because of that 0 that he gets in the passing game more often than he gets a 5. I mean, he's had 21 carries, 19 carries, 18 carries, 29 carries the last 4 weeks. His fantasy scores those 4 weeks, 8.9, 16, 8.6, 20.8. There's a wide range between his floor and his ceiling because of his lack of involvement in the passing game. And in full PPR, that can be death. Mahomes stack, risky but under-owned. I don't think it's risky. I think Mahomes is going to throw for 2 or 3 touchdowns every time he takes the field. Volume is not king with Mac. It is, but it also isn't. Everything is price sensitive. You know? Can I find somebody with volume as well at a similar price? I think so. Right? Like, you could say not all volume is created equal, right? Like Nick Chubb gets more volume, is basically the same price, and has a much steadier floor because of this, right? You know he's going to touch it 20 times on the ground. He could get 3, 4, 5 catches. He's had 3 or more catches or 4 or more catches in games more often than he's gotten less than, 2, right? He's not had those weeks where he gets 1 or no catches. He's had 2 of those weeks, right? One against San Francisco, amazing defense. One against New England, amazing defense. And on the road, both of those games. Now he's at home, should get 20 carries, tough defensive spot, right? I want to check off every box. I want a guy at home, involvement in the passing game, does get the goal line work, not competing for anything else. I think Derrick Henry's a very sneaky GPP play because of how many yards Kansas City allows on the ground to opposing running backs. But he could get scripted out of this game. If they're down 27-10, he's going to get scripted out of this game. You know this means Mac will have a receiving touchdown now, right? I hope so. I hope he does. I wish he would. As if I'm rooting against Marlon Mack. Like, he's one of my highest owned season-long plays this year. And, like, losing Luck cost me him. Like, he's still having a solid best ball year for me, but, like, he's not crushing it like I thought that he would with Andrew Luck there. Obviously, but he's still very solid. And this could be a week where he goes off against Miami. If there was a week that you thought that Marlon Mack would have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, I assume it would be against Miami. So this is the week for it to happen. It's going to happen. But like Jalen Samuels, 21 touches. These touches are not equal to these 21 touches are not equal to Marlon Mack 21 touches. These 21 touches right here have a ridiculous floor. Right? So that's the difference to me. When you get somebody who is this involved in the passing game, or James White, who never gets 21 touches, right? But if he gets 10 touches, 7 or 8 of them are coming through the air. That's an 8-point floor right there. Jalen Samuels has an 8-point floor this week. Before you consider yards, before you consider touchdowns, before you consider anything, he's going to catch 7 to 8 balls. Like, I don't see any path with all the Steelers that are gone for Jalen Samuels to not have 10 points. None. With the news about Ingram and Shepard, should Slayton be streamed, seeing his chemistry with D. Jones is already increasing? I don't know streamed is the right word. I definitely think he's in play. I think that him and Tate and Red Ellison are all in play. Ruby Double, thank you for the 2 months, man. Mason Rudolph only checks down. Great. Jalen Samuels was not in play until like yesterday. I wish that we had that news when I did the cage match with Jason, because I would 100% have taken Jalen Samuels. 100%. But like, we had no idea. It's like, well, Connor's expected to be back. And then after Thursday's practice report, Connor probably ain't going to be back. And now Edmonds is hurt. He may be the only guy. Kareem Hunt punt week. Nope. How much volume? Here's the question moving forward, chat. I'm going to put this one to you guys. How much volume do you think Kareem Hunt is going to take from Nick Chubb? Because Nick Chubb has handled basically all of the work in this Cleveland backfield, right? He's handled all of the work. Right? 24 touches, 21, 25, 17, 23, 27, 22, 20. That's a lot of touches, man. Nick Chubb's been doing it all. So now that they get Kareem Hunt back, we'll definitely have a role. Thank you for that. You think it becomes 65-35 Chubb? Like right now? Or becomes that by week 14? Is Kareem Hunt ready to play 30% of the snaps? Or is Kareem Hunt going to have like a Mecole Hardman sort of role this week? Because figuring that out is extremely important. If he's going to play 15 snaps, but the plays that he plays, he's going to get touches, right? If he plays 10 or 15 snaps, but has 8 touches on those 10 or 15 snaps, right? Like he comes on the field, he is probably going to be utilized. $65, $20, $15, and then fine. Similar to Melvin Gordon's situation, which we saw what happened last night 5 weeks later. I don't think that Hunt takes this job away from Chubb. I don't see that happening. Chubb was not okay. That's okay. The situation in Los Angeles with the Chargers is way different from the situation in Cleveland with the Browns. Melvin Gordon was the starter and Eckler was the backup, and then Melvin Gordon left, so Eckler steps up and is the starter, and then when Melvin Gordon comes back, Eckler moves back to his role as the change of pace backup running back, and Melvin Gordon eventually works into his role as the starting running back. So that was not the case and was never the case in Cleveland. Nick Chubb was the primary guy and is the primary guy. They brought in Hunt because he was ridiculously cheap and gave them volume, or gave them insurance. He was an insurance policy, gives them depth, gives them a lot of those different things. Hunt is a restricted free agent next year. Do I think Hunt will stay with the Browns next year? I doubt it. You sign a guy who's going to be a restricted free agent to let him walk, who's underpriced to give you depth and insurance this year. And when you let him walk, you get compensatory picks. So it's a way to pile more assets. Chubb already losing touches. Chubb is he's like one of the most voluminous running backs in the league. I wouldn't say he's losing touches. I don't agree that Hunt is better than Nick Chubb. I don't think that people understand how good Nick Chubb has been this year. I really don't. And I don't know that going down that road on this video, like that's a conversation we can have on stream when we're not doing the recording. But like, I don't think people understand how good Nick Chubb has been this year. He's been tremendous. But that's not relevant. You know, what happens in the future is not relevant to week 10. So I want to keep this to week 10. You don't think people understand how good Andy Reid makes running backs look. People don't. They definitely don't. And I don't mean that as a slight on Kareem Hunt. I think he's very good. Hunt and MG3 on the market next year? Yeah. But do running backs matter? Will AJ Brown be a priority if Corey Davis is out? AJ Brown was already a priority with Corey Davis there. AJ Brown was in play regardless. He's 4,300. He's playing against Kansas City. As I mentioned earlier in the show, Kansas City allowing 4.3 red zone trips to opposing teams every game. That is the most in the league. AJ Brown is a massive target. Kansas City's cornerbacks are a great matchup on an every week basis, and you're looking at a wide receiver who is trending in the right direction in terms of volume, in terms of routes run. He ran the most routes of any game that he has played this season last week. The team is trusting them more. Once they made that switch to Tannehill, his production and his volume both increased with 18 targets over the last 3 games. And now they get a shot where they're playing up in pace against a team that can't guard him. I liked AJ Brown when they were full. I'm not going to like him less if they're missing another wide receiver. So AJ Brown's been on the list for me all week. Spoiler alert, I wrote him up in Best Buys. Also, spoiler alert, I'm probably going to be talking about him on Daily Wager today on ESPN. You'll have to tune in to find out, chat. So I think the run D for the Chiefs was just because they were at home. What do you mean? What do you mean? The run D for the Chiefs has not been good, like, at all. Please address AJ as Dollywood. Yes, please. I'm trying to make it a thing. I want to make that a thing. Can we make that a thing? Rush yards against Minnesota, 96, 118, 71, 192, 180, 186, 203, 129. These are games that they're winning. Right? A lot of these are games that they're winning. They just give it up. They give it up on the ground. I think Daily Wager is 6 p.m. Eastern when it comes on. 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 Eastern. I go to record it at like 1 p.m. my time. I was offended that Mike and Dop did not. They're like, I don't know. You called him Bollywood. I'm like, it's not Bollywood. It's Dollywood. He's in Tennessee. People never get the jokes. Derrick Henry is such a tough call this week because I hate playing Derrick Henry. Yeah, I agree. For all the reasons we talked about with Marlon Mack, and there's so many other players, but we're playing a game against a lot of people. That's why I leave those guys as tournament plays. Guys like Marlon Mack, guys like Derrick Henry are tournament plays to me because they don't have a high enough floor, but they definitely have a ceiling that they can score 2 touchdowns and have 100 yards rushing. Both of them have big playability as well. So if you think about it and look at it through that lens, what percentage owned is Marlon Mack going to be? What percentage owned is Derrick Henry going to be? And if they're less than 5%, it does not take much to overweight the field if they're going to be less than 5% in a tournament, right? Everybody's going to be on all these other plays, and every running back has a path to failure. So if the chalk running backs score 13, 8, 17, and you happen to land on the one guy who's 5% owned, and there are 2 of them, as we just mentioned, with Mack and Henry, who are going to get a lot of volume, who are going to get the goal line carries, and are against teams that can't stop running backs, there's a possibility they have a 25 plus fantasy day at 5% or less owned. Fade Montgomery and Singletary and GPP. I don't see. This is kind of what we're talking about. Like I said, I'm not smart enough to fade players. I don't do that. Why did Jerry do this to us? I hate the Bears offense, and now I don't know what to do. For those of you guys who don't know, I do a podcast called The Daily Fantasy Edge with Adam Levitan and Peter Jennings. And Adam has a dog named Jerry, and historically we've made a big deal whenever Jerry barks when we're talking about a player, because a couple of years ago, every time that Jerry barked during a player's discussion, that player went bonkers on the weekend. And so this week, Jerry barked for David Montgomery. Mack is projected at 17%. I mean, yeah, that's the Miami. I kind of don't think he's going to carry that. Not now that Samuels is a play. And I don't think those get updated for a day or two. It's like right now, I think it has Marlon Mack as the second highest owned running back, and no running back over 20%. And that's an impossibility. That's not how it's going to shake out. Kenyon Drake in cash, even with the matchup? No. I don't understand, Supa. I don't understand the question. 19% difference between Saquon and CMC. Do I think that Saquon's ceiling is 19% lower? I don't think that that's the right way to think about tournament ownership. I don't think it's the right way to think about it. Any concerns about AJ Brown with coverage from Ward and or Breland? He's in Mike Clay's shadow report. Again, it's a tiebreaker thing. Matchups are a good thing. Matchups, again, just like talent, can be trumped with volume. Too bad DK stopped putting the edge on YouTube. Second week in a row, not there. I can only control my own YouTube channel. Oh, 19% price difference. Okay. Yeah, I mean, all those featured bell cow backs have the same ceiling. They all have 35-point ceilings, every one of them. Right? Especially against the Jets. Go look at Christian McCaffrey's average points per game. And then take out the Buccaneers. Christian McCaffrey is averaging 32.7 DraftKings points per game. If we remove the 2 games where he scored 21.7 points against Tampa Bay and 7.3 points against Tampa Bay, he shoots up to like 36 fantasy points a game on like 32 touch average or 30 touch average, something ridiculous. It's obscene. It's obscene how good he has been this year. The Janice and the live read was fire. Did you guys like the ad read? Does Pete need money for a camera? No, Pete, it's a whole thing. Pete does his recording in a closet now because his office was too echoey and he can't get a camera to work in his closet. And I don't know. Best ad reader in the industry. Thank you. I'm auditioning for all the voiceover work. I want to be big time like Mike Wright. I want to do all the voiceovers. Come in, do some voiceover work, go home, cash checks. Sugarfish ad read, man, I wish. Man, can we get that restaurant group to sponsor the podcast? I'm all in. I am all in. Matt Ryan is officially in for the week. Good. All he does is throw for 300 yards. We're disappointed we can't see Adam spill water all over himself. I mean, we could see that. I have the video. That video does exist. And I do have it. I was going to post it later. I'll post it on Twitter later. Do we crust crazy eyes Adam Gase on Le'Veon Bell's health? I don't know what to do with him. And I mean Gase, not Bell. I don't know what to do with him as a coach. So Le'Veon Bell's getting good usage, but it's yo-yoing, right? So like he has 8 targets, he has 1. Or he has 8 catches, he has 1. He has 9 targets, he has 1. He has 9 targets, he has 4. He has 9, he has 10, he has 4. Like it's all over the place. Against the Giants, you would assume that he's going to get 20 to 25 touches with 7 or 8 of those coming via targets through the air. And however many he catches. Bell will be limited to practice Friday. Adam Gase said it looks good when he's asked about his chances playing Saturday or Sunday. At least we'll know because we'll have inactives. And it does not look like there's any structural damage. He has practiced Thursday and he will practice Friday. They will give him the best drugs possible to allow him to not feel any pain in order to play this game on Sunday. And then it just comes down to how useful he's going to be against the Giants. But as I said before, if you don't trust the health with Le'Veon Bell, it is very easy to just dial back 600 and get to Jalen Samuels, who has a similar pass game role, if not an even better and more steady pass game role than Le'Veon Bell does, and is the only show in town right now. If you think that Le'Veon Bell is going to be active and not active, and he's going to see 10 touches instead of 25 touches because you fear the injury, then pay less money and get Jalen Samuels. And I am not going to say, you know what, that's a donkey play, because it's not. It's smart. There's a lot of value running backs. I wonder how many people are going to go 3 value running backs and eschew the top dollar ones. I don't think that that's the right way to go. I think it's fine in tournaments. But I think that a standard build is going to look something like that. Something like that. One of the high dollar running backs, and I don't know which one. You know, one of these 3 maybe. I think that people are going to go here, and I think that people are going to go here. And then fill in the rest. I think that those 4 guys are going to be really highly owned. And I think that people will fill in the rest. However they want to fill in the rest. Whether that means Christian McCaffrey, Barkley, Kamara, whether that means paying up at tight end or paying down at tight end, whether that means playing Lamar Jackson or playing Ryan Tannehill, whatever. The rest is salt to taste. But I think that there's the 4 guys that are going to be everybody's core pretty much this weekend. And I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that. Right? Oh my God, Al, I have to play these 4 guys that you said play. You don't have to do anything. That's where I think the ownership's going to be. You know? I think people are going to go that range, because I think people are going to be way more happy to play Samuels than Rojo. Where are we at on Hooper to leverage the wide receivers? Hooper's awesome. Number 1 tight end, man. He's tight end 1 right now. By a big margin. Where were you guys on that one in draft season? Do you have enough Austin Hooper in your season long leagues? Because he is lapping the field. Right? Absolutely lapping the field. 18.6 fantasy points per game. Kelsey with 14.5. Ingram with 14.4. Andrews 13.5, being drafted around the same range that Hooper was being drafted in. Right? Lots of OJ Howard. Yep. 47% Hooper in best ball. Pat Bain's going to win the whole thing. Thoughts on Josh Reynolds with Cooks out? He's going to play more. He's definitely going to play more. He had 8 targets last week. He's going to run more routes. He's going to play more. But, like, where does he sit in the pecking order? Right? Where does he sit in the pecking order? Kamara said he doesn't mind sharing reps as per triplet. Yeah, Mike's a good reporter too. So, like, Kamara's never been... I mean, he doesn't mind sharing reps. Yeah, he doesn't want to carry it. He doesn't want it 35 times, I don't think. You know, he's never been that guy. We're like Barkley and McCaffrey and Zeke, like, they just don't take me out. Give me the ball every time. I want it all the time. Give me the ball. I don't think that Alvin Kamara wants the ball every time. And that's not, again, that's not a slight on him. He wants to get in. He wants to do his stuff. He wants to carry it maybe 15 or 16 times. He wants to catch it 5, 6, 7 times. And then he's totally fine with having a Mark Ingram or a Latavius Murray get another 10 to 15 touches. Right? Let me get in there. Let me do my work. Then give me a breather. Kamara or that's a what? That there, one is 8,200, one is 4,300. That's not even the same ballpark. Kamara was an RB1 with Ingram there the past few years. Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's not a slight on Kamara to say that. I mean, look, he'd be better if he had it 30 times a game. We saw what happened last year, the first 4 weeks when Ingram was out, and he was getting it 20 to 30 times a game, right? He was 40 points every single week. He was doing Christian McCaffrey things. But I don't think he can handle that. I don't think his body can handle that over a 4-month season. So he's like, look, for me to be as effective as I can be on a week in, week out basis for 16 weeks during the regular season, and then hopefully the playoffs and the Super Bowl, I cannot carry it or touch it 400 to 450 times. So I need another guy so I can be as explosive as I can be at any time that I touch the ball. And there's nothing wrong with that. Second favorite Baltimore running back not named Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews. We can talk about that situation real quick. So, like, Baltimore is in a spot against Cincinnati, who is one of the worst teams in the league at defending the run. 19 carries last time when Lamar Jackson played them at home. Now they're going on the road. Second time facing divisional opponent. They're going to have a little bit of a different game plan because Cincinnati is going to adjust and the game is there. The game is in Cincinnati. I think that Lamar Jackson is going to carry, and I could be wrong on this because I've been wrong on Mark Ingram's ownership all year. People just love to click Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram does not get the ball a lot. He has not had one 20 carry game this year, which is something I did not see coming at all. I thought that he would be... I thought that he'd get more carries than he's getting now. Okay, like, suffice to say. Partially because of the fact that I thought that Lamar Jackson would average 10 to 12 carries a game because they were wanting to get him off of the 17 carries that he was getting last year because they were afraid of wearing him out for the playoffs. But as we saw, that's kind of how the season started, right? That's where they started. Let's keep him at about maybe 10 carries a game. And then it's like, yeah, but it's so easy when we just let him carry the ball. And now he's carrying it 17 times a game again, right? 14, 16, 19, 14. He's carrying it 15 to 17 times a game. I said this on the edge and I'll say it again now. I believe that Mark Ingram is an extremely good leverage play because I do not think that people are going to click Mark Ingram's name a lot this week. There's too many other running backs to play. And we talked about Marlon Mack and we talked about Henry as leverage plays. I think that Mark Ingram is a low ownership play that will leverage you off of the people that are going to be on Lamar Jackson, because a lot of people are going to play Lamar Jackson for good reason. And if Ingram comes in at like 5% owned and Lamar Jackson's at 20% owned or 25% owned, because people are going to look at that box score against Cincinnati and say, oh, look, he ran for 152 last time at 33 fantasy points. He's probably going to do it again at the same price. You're going to get Mark Ingram. Have we seen multiple touchdown games out of Mark Ingram this year? We certainly have. What if Mark Ingram has one of these games? And Lamar Jackson has one of these games. And he's had good games. He's had great games. But what if he has one of these games? 14 points. What if they don't need him? What if he has 21 points and is just pedestrian? Right? You're going to say, but 21 points is good. 21 points is good, but it's not separating you at quarterback. There will be 10 quarterbacks on this slate that have 21 fantasy points or more. So 21 points isn't separating you in a tournament. It's just not. So Mark Ingram is somebody who can separate you from the field if you choose to go that route. And he's the one who scores the touchdowns, because Baltimore is just going to be about who scores the touchdowns, because they will score touchdowns against this Cincinnati defense. Baltimore are going to be saving players if they get up early against Houston next. I mean, again, this is not college. It doesn't work that way. That doesn't happen. Players don't sit in the NFL. Every game is too important. Right? College, that happens. Right? Because teams are up 50 at halftime. And then they sit their players and they rest them and you know, they get the second stringers in, get them some opportunity, get the walk-ons in the fourth quarter. That doesn't happen in the NFL. They only have 54 guys on the roster and 2 of them are kickers. You know, one of them is a long snapper. They have limited players that they can play. Oh, they'll definitely pull off the gas. But again, they'd have to be up 20 first for that to happen. And they can get up 20, right? Is Le'Veon Bell still a good play? It depends on your idea of what you think about his health, to be honest with you. We already went over that earlier. Garbage time is fantasy time. It can be. So it just kind of, it's there, right? I think that this slate is somewhat not predictable, because I would never say that it's predictable. But I think that we have some very defined value plays. I think we know what the core plays are going to be and where the ownership's going to be. I think we have some very definable leverage plays against the field. And there's a lot of spots that we could take advantage of. There's a lot of great stacks. There's some high scoring teams that we could game the team stack. There's some high scoring games that we can possibly get some run back and forth and game stack. And players at low ownership that we can use in those spots to try and really get after it. So I think that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Week 10 Lineup Builders. Thank you guys for watching. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you ring that notifications bell, because I don't want you to miss any of the content that I put out on this channel. And if you haven't already, join us on Twitch for the Anti-Tinkercast 45 minutes before kickoff on Sunday. Until the next video, I'll catch you guys later. Best of luck in Week 10. Bye.
He's a legend.